Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Slam Up Wrestling. Myself, Supreet, and this is the Friday Night SmackDown review for August 14th, 2020. And I'm joined by Ishan Chauhan. What's up, Ishan?
Hi Supreet, what's up?
I'm doing good. What about you?
Oh, I'm just having a very good time. I think this past week was a very good week for wrestling as a whole. I really loved the week in wrestling from WWE to Impact Wrestling to AEW. Everything was really nice. Really enjoyed wrestling this week.
So let's talk about SmackDown this week.
Yes, absolutely. Let's begin with SmackDown on Fox.
Before we talk SmackDown, if you're new to
Yeah.
this channel, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell for all notifications. We here in Slam Up Wrestling cover all pro wrestling related stuff, including reviews for Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW Dynamite, and New Japan as well. So this week's SmackDown opens up with the recap of Retribution and their recent acts. So commentators they were mentioning that there was extra security tonight. We were supposed to get Big E versus John Morrison, but before the match even began, Retribution comes out. They chase down the commentators and attack Morrison, and they attack both Morrison and Big E. After that, they escape. Miss comes in to check in Morrison, and that was it. I think WWE should hire better security person. What do you think?
Uh, well, indeed, but we've already know what kind of security personnel WWE always has. Wherever security is used in WWE segments, you know that these guys are going to get beat up.
What do you think about Retribution?
Oh, to be honest, I think I'm looking forward to what they have to, give out once they reveal themselves, what they actually want to do with it, or are they just going to continue vandalizing stuff around the WWE Performance Center, or now in the Amway Center? I don't know, but I want to see what they are looking forward to do. In the first week, I think that I've seen them. They look really, really small. The internet was also buzzing about it that these guys look super small, like 5 feet, 5 feet 2 inches, 5 feet 4 inches, if I'm not wrong. So they don't, they didn't actually look that convincing at first. But this week, when I saw when SmackDown opened and these guys came out, I could see that there are a few huge guys. There are a few guys that okay, you can take seriously. So they've made that difference. So it was cool to see them come in like this, but I still feel there is some kind of a stink of a possible ripoff from Nexus and NW.
Um, so my take is since they nearly killed the Fiend last year, I cannot put my faith in WWE with these type of storylines. And plus looking at the scenario, I don't even think they have plans on who are behind this mess. And what could possibly make this storyline interesting?
Yeah, please.
If WWE still has the plans for that SmackDown hacker, remember that?
Yeah.
Then they can link it with the retribution angle, and at least that can make some logical storyline.
Well, certainly, because people are looking for answers of where the hacker came from and where the hacker disappeared after the Otis and Mandy segment. So it really is a big question mark that the entire WWE universe, all fans around the world are thinking that okay, all right, these guys started off with something good. This hacker storyline seems convincing. People thought it was going to be Mustafa Ali, but the hopes were crushed, and suddenly the hacker disappears and Mustafa turns up on Raw. So I don't know. But if they do it, if they actually link the hacker through retribution, I think then it would actually make some more sense, and it would actually mean that these guys were planting the seeds from a very long time.
After this backstage, all wrestlers gather around. Miz was explaining Morrison that he was on the phone with Maurice. He said none of this would have happened if it wasn't for Biggie sending that tweet and challenging retribution. King Corbin walks in. He says, if everyone follows his leadership, then everyone will be safe. Biggie tells him to shut up. He said, this is our house and he won't allow the Foot Clan to run our house. He said he'll go back to the ring and challenge Morrison again. Sheamus then walks in, makes fun of Biggie for being vulnerable and scared without his New Day brothers. He said that Retribution would dare interrupt his match, and that was it. So next segment was Sasha Banks and Bailey. They were in the ring. Basically, they
Yeah,
are
yeah.
out to introduce the. Yeah, go on.
No, I'm. So I want to talk about that segment there of Biggie. When these guys had gathered around back in the backstage area.
Mhm.
So when I saw that segment and when Biggie was talking, when he was delivering that promo, I'm a huge Biggie fan. I'm like a huge Biggie mark, and l- that promo delivery and everything about it looks so smooth and awesome that it certainly looked like Biggie is actually getting this molding into a singles role. Actually, this is a slow transition, and I read uh, on the internet a few days back that Biggie himself said that WWE have discussed the plans for his single run, and he's not actually uh, trusting them, or he's not buying it until it actually happens, because he feels that plans in WWE change constantly. But this, looking at that segment and everything, Biggie was that babyface star I could see. I really like that.
Yeah, his promo skills improved with that New Day thing for the last 5 6 years.
Absolutely. And coming out of the New Day thing, like not coming out, but while maintaining the New Day thing, you also have to carve a niche. Now he's carving a niche for himself in his singles run. So he also needs some character of his own along with the New Day thing. And that is what I think they are doing. And so far, so good. I really like it. I think I will discuss more about Biggie when we come to the later part of the show when we discuss his match with Morrison.
Yeah, that we will talk about that. So we were talking about Sasha Banks and Bailey. So they were out to introduce the competitors of the Tribe Brand Women's Battle Royal. Asuka was one of the unexpected entrant, and she goes right after Banks and Bailey. Back from commercial, match begins. Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott get eliminated by the Iconics. Tamina eliminates Nikki Cross, who is then tossed out by Bianca Belair. And one by one, Lacey Evans, Naomi, Bianca Belair, Shotzi Blackheart are eliminated. Final four were Dana Brooke, Shayna Baszler, Tegan Knox. So Brooke somehow eliminates Knox. Asuka with a hip attack eliminating Brooke. Asuka and Baszler now exchanging strikes. Asuka was on the apron. Bailey tried to cause a distraction, but Asuka takes out Bailey, and same goes for Banks as well. Baszler with a kick. Asuka fell but landed on top of Banks and Bailey. Baszler went for the choke. Asuka instead pulls out Baszler and to the floor. Asuka was the winner here, and she's now challenging both Sasha Banks and Bailey at SummerSlam for their respective championship. What do you think?
Well, certainly, when Stephanie McMahon announced that there will be a tri-brand women's battle royal, I was intrigued because I wanted to see what direction will they be going with Bailey. Now that Sasha is going to compete against Asuka, but when the match started and when Asuka came out, then it was quite a shocker. But then when seeing Shayna and Asuka in the final two, I realized that it is surely going to be Asuka that is going to win this thing. And I think it is the right decision because it's pointless giving the SmackDown Women's Championship uh, to a very less build feud and something like that. Because if there was any other wrestler who would have won this battle royal, then there is only a 1 week build, 1 week like yeah, 1 week build to their match. So really wouldn't have made a lot of sense. But Asuka winning it already has history with Bailey, and she's already facing Sasha Banks. So I'm certainly intrigued to see what happens because I have a theory as to why they've chosen Asuka to face Sasha and Bailey both. But I think we'll discuss that in our SummerSlam edition. What's it?
I got your point that Asuka made the perfect choice for winning this battle royal. Like you said, if it was someone else, then that would have been a 1 week thing.
Yeah.
Like you said, yeah. But also to add to your point, I think their narrative is that Asuka will get her revenge on both Banks and Bailey by taking both championships.
Um, it could very well happen, but I don't see a double champion at this stage, considering the depth that both the Raw women's roster and the women's SmackDown women's roster has. Asuka getting both the belts would be something like Keith Lee winning the North American Championship and the NXT Championship. We would have to relinquish one anyway, or else it would be like Becky Lynch that she loses at the next pay per view, probably payback.
We will do the predictions of what we think about both the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships.
Yeah.
Backstage, Banks and Bailey were not happy with Asuka winning the Battle Royal. Asuka shows up, attacks both women, laying them out, and that was it. Next up, we had a recap of Sonia Deville attacking Mandy Rose. A promo by Mandy Rose. She says Deville is not the first person to say that she's just a pretty face, a Barbie doll, a bikini model who can't wrestle. Rose then talks about her struggle, saying she had to do 3 jobs plus going through college while winning said bikini contest. Rose then challenges Deville to a hair versus hair match at SummerSlam. Deville later on responded and accepted the match. Good promo by Mandy Rose. Sonia Deville has been great lately, and I'm looking forward to this match. What do you think?
So to be honest, I think I really did not think that Mandy Rose and Sonia Deville would actually end up having such a brilliant feud. I have to give props to both women here, especially Sonia Deville, and because these two women, their character on screen, their chemistry, and the entire thing that has been played out has has been the reason why they are getting actually such a uh, attentive and long feud. Otherwise, I thought it is going to end at WrestleMania, and that is going to be it. But they've kept it along, and they've kept it going pretty nicely with Sonia being the bitch here, being the very good heel. So I'm really liking this program here, and Mandy actually looks like the world's sexiest and best soccer mom there. So so certainly, I'm looking forward to this. And can you just imagine, like they've done everything possible. They've got Sonia Deville killing Mandy Deville, Mandy Rose on promos. Then you've got Mandy Rose getting some kind of a retribution. Then you've got Sonia Deville bouncing back, saying some bitchy things. Then you've got this continuous thing going on. Then you've got Sonia attacking her, cutting her hair, and now this leads to a hair versus hair match. I did not think that I would see a hair versus hair match uh, with women involved. Uh, this is something I'm really liking. I'm really behind this feud. I'm really looking forward to this match at SummerSlam. And the segments today also were done really well. The promos by both women were impressive. I think there has to be props to these women and the writing team that is involved. I think this part of SmackDown is something which is exciting.
You said you said that this storyline has been interesting and all. I need to make a point across that there was a report that only Sonia Deville has she has got creative control. And that's the reason the storyline could be that great.
Yeah, so that's what I said, because the performance of these two women, and especially Sonia Deville, the performance has intrigued everyone, and has earned good praise, not only from fans, but I think in the management also, and only because of the hard work and efforts that these two women and Sonia have put, especially Sonia, they've put in. That is the reason they're getting this feud, and it's worth it. A SummerSlam match, hair versus hair match, what else could you want?
I think it's the so we only have 2 3 matches that have been well built for SummerSlam, and we can include this match as well.
Yes, certainly we can include. And this match, I'm looking forward to it because I think Sonia is going to be victorious. I want her to be victorious and move on to become the SmackDown Women's Champion.
We'll have to wait and see. So next was Nikki Cross. She found Alexa Bliss in a corner. Cross tried to apologize Bliss for walking out on her. Cross then starts worrying about Bliss. Bliss responds not to worry about her. Cross said that Bliss should be somewhere safe. Bliss instead said that she needs some answers from Braun Strowman. Next match was Sheamus versus Chad Gable. This went for about 4 minutes. Gable did get some offense, including getting a near fall. Sheamus at the end hit the broke kick for the win, and that was it. I'm only gonna say that Chad Gable is underrated, and he should get rid of that Shorty G gimmick.
Well, certainly I feel the same. Uh, Chad Gable is a pure world class athlete, in my opinion. And that talent is just going wasted and going nowhere with the Shorty G gimmick, to be honest. He should be, he can be entertaining, he can be a bitch, he can be a good baby face. They just need to invest some time into this boy and give him the chance to be himself, because he's very likable. He could be your next nice baby face after like Daniel Bryan was. I certainly feel he has the potential, and he's a beast in the ring also. I so it's sad that he's stuck in the Shorty G limbo.
There is hope for him because you can see the Intercontinental Championship division right now, which is run by AJ Styles.
Well, that is certainly a prospect, but considering that Styles is now going to feud with Jeff Hardy, uh, this guy doesn't seem to be coming near the title picture anytime soon. Because I feel AJ Styles, after he's done with Jeff Hardy or whatever, Big E would eventually get that championship from him.
Speaking about AJ Styles, so AJ Styles and Joseph Parks, aka Abyss, remember him?
Oh my God. I was so happy to see him because he is awesome. Like, I've been an Abyss fan since forever, as far as I can remember. I've been an Abyss fan. I remember the 2005 lockdown match, Abyss versus AJ Styles. Then I remember this match with AJ Styles and Ric Flair with Abyss and Hulk Hogan. And there are so many Abyss and AJ Styles matches that I've seen in TNA. Oh my God, it was great to see him. It was awesome, and it was plus the best part was seeing him in the Joseph Parks uh, mode, because I certainly, I was feeling that okay, now any moment he could turn to Abyss, any moment he could attack AJ Styles, or I want this to happen down the line. I want Joseph Parks to be with Styles every single week and then probably become Abyss one day. or AJ Styles become gets Abyss or whatever. Oh, I was so happy to see them both. I can't contain my
Imagine,
excitement.
imagine if it was 2009, and I would have said you that one day AJ Styles and Abyss will be on WWE TV. What would be your reaction? Your reaction?
uh, to be honest, it seemed like a very far-fetched idea. You know, when both these guys were in Impact Wrestling, especially AJ Styles, uh, it seemed like a far-fetched idea that Vince would never get them. Although there was a point when they contacted Abyss for a match against The Undertaker.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
I think it was WrestleMania 23.
Yeah,
So they
instead,
wanted,
yeah,
so they wanted,
he didn't accept that offer because only wanted to work TNA at that time.
yeah, yeah. So it could have been something great. So possibly, they had eyes on Abyss. They knew what he could do, and that is the reason they wanted him in. But such is life. We didn't get him in his prime at then. And AJ Styles also looked like a far-fetched idea, but never say never in professional wrestling.
So Styles and Parks were out for a the next segment. Styles wanted to find out who will be challenging him next for the Intercontinental Championship. He said that he has been a fighting champion. Styles said he wants to enjoy his title reign, go home and do Twitch streams. But some people are acting like bunch of nerds and talking about statistics. He said just like in baseball and football, where there are stats, he has decided to introduce the phenomenal intercontinental statistics system. In short form, we call it PIS. He said title matches will be earned on merit. So they had a board for these statistics. So Styles was number one on this list with nobody else. Styles said nobody has earned the right to face him. Jeff Hardy then comes out. He then mentions how his opportunity at the Intercontinental title was taken away thanks to Sheamus. Hardy showed his aspirations for a title match with Styles. Styles then starts putting over Hardy and his accomplishments and said he deserves to be on this board. Um, he then said no and starts laughing. Styles said that he hasn't earned anything, and says this is not a pity party. Hardy had heard enough and attacked Styles. A twist of fate to AJ Styles, and Hardy then wrote his own name on the board, and that was it. So this match has been made official for next week on SmackDown. What is your take?
It's official for next week.
Yes,
I thought
SmackDown.
it's on SummerSlam.
No, no, no. They are decided to do it on SmackDown.
Oh man, I thought we were going to get AJ Styles versus Jeff Hardy at SummerSlam. How sad.
Well, you are getting on a free TV, so it could be a good match.
Yeah, absolutely. For us, pay-per-views are also free. Never mind.
Yeah, that's a fair point. What has been your take on AJ Styles IC title reign so far?
Well, it's just been over a month, 2 months that he's won it. So, and it's so far it's been nice. I've liked it. He's put on some very great matches. Of course, no solid feud as of yet, but now he's getting into a feud with Jeff Hardy. So I think this one will be pretty long.
I have liked the title reign so far because AJ Styles in 2019 he took a backseat, but he really became a great character after the Undertaker feud, and now he's back to giving great matches, and he's making the IC title mean something.
Absolutely.
Do you want to know which title doesn't mean anything?
Surely.
SmackDown Tag Team titles.
Oh yeah. Oh, they do mean. They do mean. Come on, my favorite wrestler, Cesaro, and Shinsuke Nakamura are holding on to it. I like them.
Okay. So Shinsuke Nakamura and Grand Metalik had a match. This went 4 minutes. What happened was mid-match, the Lucha House Party music hit, and it was the returning Kalisto. Dorado and Kalisto take out Cesaro, your favorite wrestler. Nakamura got distracted. He hits an elbow drop from Metallic, and that was it. Anything you want to say?
I did not expect Grand Metalik to actually win the match, but you know, in the absence of the New Day, in the absence of the Usos, they have actually stepped up in the tag team division in this entire pandemic, the Lucha House Party. And they are getting some TV time. They are getting a good feud. They're getting starting on a good feud with Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura. So I think this sets the tone for a, one-on-one match between Cesaro and probably Lince Dorado or Kalisto, or a tag team match for the tag team championships.
So this is the state of the SmackDown Tag Team division. Hear me out. There are only three active tag teams on this brand: Miz and Morrison, Nakamura and Cesaro, Lucha House Party.
Yeah.
The Usos they are out. New Day is out. Jackson Riker is
Forgotten
a
Sons are off screen.
yes, because Jackson Riker is a Trump supporter, so technically Forgotten Sons are dead. Otis is Mr. Money in the Bank, so Heavy Machinery is technically out. Miz and Morrison, I don't know what they are doing. Same situation with the tag team division on Raw, and also in some case on NXT. Like the tag team wrestling to WWE is nothing.
Uh, I think I would disagree. They have a lot of tag team potential and a lot of tag team wrestlers, but at this point of time when there is a global pandemic, I think they have been limited to the use of roster that they have.
No, 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 no. This is not. This was before even the pandemic. Just check out the
But
state
that's
of
what
the
I'm
tag
saying. They
team.
have they have a good depth in tag team on SmackDown. Just that you've got Usos who are injured. You've got New Day who is injured. Forgotten Sons are off. Heavy Machinery. I think it's directionless in my opinion. That there is a good division there, but it's directionless.
Yeah, then that's what I'm saying. They are not giving the importance that the tag team division should get. Like here's another example. So Usos and New Day they got over by their series of matches. So
But
management got lazy, and we saw not one, two, three, four continuous New Day versus Usos, New Day versus Usos, New Day versus Usos. You get my point?
yeah,
So there does lack some creativity in that division. Plus, when there are no tag teams, they decide to put two singles wrestlers and make them a tag team. For example, Cesaro and Nakamura.
well, I think that is just because there are no tag teams that are active at this point of time.
Mm, I don't know. I think a different management will handle things betterly overall, not just the tag team
Ah,
division.
no. Like you've got a other company that focuses really well on the tag team division, but their women's division is bullshit. Sorry to say that, but it's true.
Yeah, that's right. We can talk about that for an hour or so. But let's get to
Yeah.
the next segment.
So everybody's got their own what do you say, faults,
False. Yes.
shortcomings.
Yep. Next up, Matt Riddle. He was being interviewed. He was talking about King Corbin and his ransom. Chad Gable comes out and apologizes to Riddle, saying he did it for his family. Riddle accepted the apology but was taken out by Corbin. Corbin sarcastically thanked Gable for helping him in this attack, and that was it. Another interview. This was a sit-down interview with Alexa Bliss. She talked about Braun Strowman and their history. She said she really got to know the man behind the monster. She said they are good friends. She was asked if they are more than friends. Bliss said she does care for him. When asked about the Fiend, she said that his presence is scary, terrifying, and compelling. She then makes a moth to flame reference. When asked about Braun Strowman's comments from last week, she went silent, and that was it. Anything you want to say about this segment, or shall we talk about it in the main event?
Well, I think it was just another segment for me. I think they could have got her in the ring and just went on with it.
Um, Big E versus John Morrison. This went 11 minutes. Main focus was on Retribution attacking a referee and causing chaos backstage. So the wrestlers who had surrounded the ring run backstage. Back to the match. So Biggie won this match with a stretch muffler, and that was it. We have already talked about Retribution, but what do you think about Biggie and his singles career? We have
Yeah, so
touched about him. Yeah, go on.
yeah, so that's what I wanted to tell you that Biggie so far they are creating a niche, they are carving a own character for him along with his New Day persona, and this can you can see that in his wrestling style also. He's won matches consistently with the Brock Lock, if I'm not wrong.
Yep.
So he's winning matches with a submission move, showing that he's got a new move in his arsenal, and he's molding himself into the singles thing by getting moves, and now we'll see how his character develops and how he goes for whichever championship he chooses to go for. Because I don't want him to just go on a singles run and face random guys every week. I want him to be in a very good, meaningful feud. I think we are going to get a Big E versus Sheamus feud until AJ Styles finishes up with Jeff Hardy. But then I would certainly like to see Big E dethrone AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Championship.
You made the you mentioned New Day. What do you think about him still using the New Day gimmick? Because people are saying that if he doesn't drop the New Day gimmick, then it could affect him in the long run. Same thing was said about Kofi Kingston last year when he was the WWE champion, that he should drop the New Day gimmick. So,
It's
what is your
stupid.
take on that?
It's stupid. I think what whoever is saying this is stupid. Certainly, I feel they should carve a niche for themselves, but I think they should not drop the New Day thing. Dude, what do you think has got Kofi Kingston, Big E, and Xavier Woods all over and over in huge way? It is the New Day. If there was no New Day, I would guarantee Big E wouldn't have been this big. Xavier Woods certainly wouldn't have been this big, and Kofi wouldn't have been this big. They would have always been in the mid card. Xavier would have been in the lower mid card, jobbing. I feel that would have happened given the talent that they have. But you know what WWE does? They would have always been stuck if it wasn't for the New Day. The New Day is magic, in my opinion. The New Day is what has given them their popularity. So leaving that and then becoming a singles wrestler doesn't look good. But if he can uh, incorporate his 5 count gimmick
Yep.
with the New Day thing, like probably after he hits the big ending, ask the referee to count till 5. If he does something like that, that would also establish his dominance while he is a New Day guy.
Basically, he can slowly start shedding off the New Day gimmick.
He can, but let's see how it goes.
And you said he could be a potential challenger for the Intercontinental title. He could also be a he could also fit like a glove in the Universal title picture as well.
It could very well happen, but I don't know, man. Like that's what I'm saying. Now, Big E's singles run has also begun at the same time when the Fiend is going to win his second Universal Championship.
We'll have to wait and see. So post
So the
match,
Fiend is certainly certain to have a long run. I want him to have a long run.
yeah,
They
we'll be.
can't mess up like Goldberg.
Oh, don't remind me of that. Um, we will be talking about that. But post match, Biggie was taken out by Sheamus with a broke kick, so we can expect a mini feud between the two, maybe heading towards the payback pay per view. Then out comes Bald Strowman, aka Braun Strowman. So Strowman calls out the Fiend. He said, "Coming out of the swamp made him an evil son of a bitch." He said he's gonna destroy the Fiend limb from limb. Alexa Bliss comes out. Bliss demanded answers from Strowman. Strowman refuses to even look at her. He said that what he said last week about her was true, and he really doesn't give a damn about her. Bliss refuses to believe that. Strowman explained that everyone who comes in contact with the Fiend changes, including Bliss. Bliss then warns Strowman. Bliss then starts slapping Strowman. Strowman laughs it off. He then military presses Bliss until the lights start to go off. Strowman slams Bliss before the Fiend showed up. So we had a face-to-face, and both the Fiend and Strowman laughed it off, and that's how SmackDown went off air.
It was a very, very interesting end to SmackDown, I would certainly say. But the question is, who is the heel here? Is Braun Strowman the heel?
I actually don't care about this storyline, but the involvement of Alexa Bliss has made it little interesting. And
Yeah, like I'm just interested for the Fiend to just like fuck Braun and get the Universal Championship where it belongs.
speaking about Braun Strowman, his character has been dead for 2 years, but I feel like they are changing things up with this new look, possibly a heel turn.
Well, that's what he certainly needs at this moment.
Yeah, he could change up his character a bit. And yeah, that was SmackDown. And this week's SmackDown was a very below average show, to be honest.
Well, yeah, it was not too great, but it was an okay show. Yeah, it was okay for me.
Yeah, so before we go, how about we do a little SummerSlam prediction?
Oh, SummerSlam.
Yep.
So okay, so let me just come and see this. All right, so the card is right in front of me. Uh, First match, the Raw Tag Team Championship match. Andrade and Angel Garza versus the Street Profits. Who do you think is winning?
So first of all, the Street Profits have done shit with that tag team titles. I don't mind giving the titles to Andrade and Garza. So I'm picking Garza and Andrade to become new tag team champions.
Well, certainly the way the storyline has progressed so far, I would like to see Andrade and Angel Garza win the championship from the Street Profits. Probably extend this rivalry, but now that Andrade and Angel Garza both are not doing anything as singles competitors, I think it would be great for them to hold the championship and feud with the likes of Viking Raiders, etc., etc.
Next, we have Paulo Cruz defending the United States Championship against MVP. Who you got?
It's my man. It's Apollo. Apollo's winning this, man. I want Apollo to win it, and because I feel that he's really becoming a person of his own now, a good personality, and actually people can take him seriously now. I'm starting to be invested with this personality that Apollo Cruz has developed, which is nice. I want him to have a good reign, a meaningful reign, and a meaningful, uh, you know, feud for the championship, for the US championship, that sets the tone for Apollo to be a force to be reckoned with, plus for Apollo to be a long, long United States champion.
Um, I think they should have done Apollo Crews versus Bobby Lashley instead because they did
Dude, Bobby
MVP
doesn't draw
versus
bullshit for me.
yeah. Repeat that.
Bobby doesn't draw bullshit for me. To be honest, MVP has been pure gold, all right? And that's, you got to invest where the money is.
Yeah, but his role is he's a manager. He's the manager for both Bobby Lashley and now Shelton Benjamin.
He's an occasional wrestler also,
Occasional wrestler, but not a good wrestler. And
but he's not retired. And who's saying we need him to win a championship anyway?
but we had this match on Raw. Why do it for a second time?
Probably they have something else planned. Let's see what goes.
Anyways, I want Apollo Crews to win this match, or else if he loses, then I will declare him buried.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Next up, Street Fight Dominic versus Seth. I think Seth's winning this.
yeah, even I'm picking Seth. This can be a underrated match considering this is the first match of Dominic, so we don't know what he can do. He has shown in the past some glimpses of being good in the ring. For example, the beating he took from Brock Lesnar and that little Survivor Series moment.
Yeah, we can.
Yep. Sasha Banks defending the Raw Women's Championship against Asuka.
Asuka wins it.
I'm picking that Asuka will beat Banks for the Raw Women's Championship. But what do you think about the SmackDown Women's Championship? Bailey defending the title against
Somehow
Asuka.
Bailey retains her championship. Somehow she retains.
Yeah, even I'm picking Bailey to retain the championship because there is a small link to Sasha Banks and their storyline. So
Yes.
yeah. Next up, we had the hair versus hair match: Mandy Rose versus Sonia Deville.
Sonia.
I'm picking Mandy.
Oh, this will be nice.
Wait a minute. Did we pick who is gonna get bald or who's gonna win this match?
Whoever, like, whoever gets bald wins the match, right?
Hey, no, no, I'm confused
Like,
right now.
sorry, whoever gets pinned gets bald, right?
Yes,
Yeah, so I think Sonia is winning it.
I think Mandy is winning it because
Okay.
I doubt the company letting their favorite quote unquote blonde. I should say that, but they don't want her bald and all. But I think Sonia Deville could be could make that work.
Yeah, if you think like that, then yeah, probably.
Plus, Sonia has already beat Mandy twice, so this could be her revenge.
Yeah,
Let's get to the final two match. Braun Strowman defending the Universal Championship against the Fiend.
the Fiend wins it.
Um, I'm also going with the Fiend. Yeah. So next we have Drew McIntyre defending the WWE Championship against Randy Orton.
Oh, now this is tough, but I think I want a long championship run for Drew McIntyre, so I'll go with Drew.
Yeah, I also want a lengthy reign from Drew McIntyre, but seeing how hot Randy Orton is right now, I think it's right time to give the title to him. I hope. I hope. I think that McIntyre can do something different for the next coming 5 months until
Hello.
Royal Rumble. So yeah, I'm going with Randy Orton to become the new WWE champion.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I think Drew will retain.
Yeah, so those were our predictions for SummerSlam, which will take place from the Amway Center with virtual fans.
It's going to be exciting. Let's see how this virtual fan experience is.
So before we go, where can these guys find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram. Just search in Ishan Vishwanath or type in Isarlay, Isarlayy. You'll find me there.
You can find Slam of Wrestling on Twitter at Slam of W, Instagram at Slam of Wrestling. Our podcast and reviews are mainly audio based, and if you don't want your YouTube app running for that, then you can catch Slam of Wrestling on Anchor and Spotify as well. So this was the SmackDown review, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye bye.